Welcome, and thank you for tuning into the Silent Voices Heard Stories, the podcast that brings you a unique look into the experiences and everyday lives of those that are a part of the deaf and hard of hearing community. I'm your co-host Tatum, joined with my other co-hosts Gabriella and Tyler.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here.
Hey, how's it going?
To start off, we just want to address the fact that we are well aware that we are not a part of the deaf community, but through our research and new knowledge, we have gained such an appreciation for the community. We are so excited to share what we have learned and hopefully provide everyone with a greater appreciation and understanding of the community.
With that being said, here's a brief overview of the topics we researched and wanted to share with you. My main focus was looking into how the rise of cochlear implant technology impacts deaf communities. Tatum focused on how communication barriers affect the mental health of deaf individuals, and Tyler researched the communication and education problems faced and how we as the non-deaf community can help.
Thank you for that. There's so much that goes into the education problems faced to the deaf community. One of the most important steps we can take to support deaf education is early intervention. Research has shown that identifying hearing loss early and giving deaf children access to communication methods like sign language can greatly increase their language, cognitive, and social development. While children receive the support early, they're able to bridge the gap with their hearing peers, setting themselves up for success in school and in life. As the non-deaf community, we can help by advocating for more awareness and resources for early intervention programs. By doing this, we ensure deaf children have the tools they need to succeed from the get-go.
That's interesting that you bring up that point about how sign language can greatly enhance people's language and overall development, because later I will discuss this program in Toronto that is against teaching sign language. But keep going, I want to hear more about what you found.
On the topic of education, what was discussed in an article in 2018 by Manfred Hintmeyer included a study involving 32 deaf and hard of hearing adults, which found that their success in the workforce was strongly influenced by the development of essential soft skills. Soft skills such as communication, self-confidence, and teamwork, alongside their personal expertise. This makes note of the importance of learning these skills early in deaf education. As one participant said, having self-confidence and the ability to communicate effectively was crucial to overcoming challenges both in school and in my career. Schools and educators can support this not only by focusing on the academic achievements, but also gaining social skills and providing a supportive environment with access to resources like sign language interpreters and assistive technologies. For the non-deaf community, supporting the developments of these competencies through inclusive learning environments and offering necessary accommodations can play a pivotal role in helping deaf students succeed both in their education and future careers.
Going off of Tyler's points about education, like I mentioned earlier, I found an article published in 2015 by Tracy Edelis titled Listen and Speak, Power, Knowledge, Truth, and Cochlear Implants in Toronto. This article discusses cochlear implants and how it is changing programs in Toronto, Canada, surrounding deaf children. This program of education does not give the children the opportunity to learn sign language and instead treats their hearing disability as a medical condition. They use power knowledge dynamics to enforce a strict no sign language policy. Cochlear implants are extremely beneficial for those who are deaf or hard of hearing, but this does not diminish the fact that it is a disability, not a medical condition. The article also touches upon how the program is part of a capitalist system. This system aims to make people quote-unquote normal by promoting modern medicine and technology. By addressing the fact that they are aiming to make people normal, they are diminishing the fact that these are real people that contain the same DNA and makeup as anyone else. They just have a hearing disability.
I completely agree with you, Gabriella. The goal to make people normal through the insertion of cochlear implants is inhumane. I will say it is interesting that you brought this up because I found a 2012 study by Fellinger, Holzinger, and Pollard that discusses the mental health of deaf people and the mental health effects of cochlear implants. As you said, cochlear implants offer significant benefits for people with profound hearing loss. particularly in improving speech perception and quality of life. And you're right, it's not as simple as treating deafness purely as a medical condition to be fixed. But the article I found stated that cochlear implantation has positive effects on overall psychological well-being of many deaf children. In these cases, implants help restore communication abilities, which can reduce feelings of isolation and improve overall mental well-being. However, the situation is a little bit more complicated for those who are born deaf. The article notes that even though cochlear implants can improve speech perception, the long-term psychological and educational outcomes for these individuals are different based on factors such as the age at which they received the cochlear implant. Ultimately, the article emphasizes that deafness should not only be viewed as a medical issue, but also as a cultural identity, especially within the deaf communities that use sign language as their primary communication. Like you said, Gabriella, deafness is a spectrum, and cochlear implants should not be seen as a way to normalize individuals.
Yes, I totally agree. This program is trying to do something really good by introducing cochlear implants to kids, but the way they are doing it is not thought out. By refusing to teach children sign language just because it's not widely known around the world, they are depriving them of something that at some point in time could be helpful to them or those around them. Hearing parents, who make up over 90% of parents of deaf children, generally seek a normal life for their child, which involves hearing and speaking. Medical professionals encourage this by explaining how they intend to make them normal by focusing on medicine and technology and disregarding any information about deaf culture and sign language. Parents are told that if they want their children to receive a cochlear implant, they should not expose them to any form of ASL.
You just reminded me of another article I read published by the National Deaf Children's Society in 2024, focusing on a personal narrative about a girl named Jovita who was born deaf into a hearing family. Her parents encouraged her to use hearing aids and lip reading, believing it would help her succeed in life. Jovita just always felt like something was missing. That something was sign language, specifically British Sign Language, also known as BSL. At the end of the article, she gives a list of 5 ways parents of deaf children can help support their children. There is one in particular that stood out to me. Jovita says, communicate with your child and find out how they are feeling. Learning BSL might help your child to feel more comfortable and find it easier to communicate with you. Jovita states how after discovering BSL, everything changed for her. She says it wasn't just about learning a new way to communicate, it was about reclaiming her identity as a deaf person. She realized her identity wasn't something to be fixed, it was something to be celebrated.
So I'm not sure if anyone watched The Bachelor last season, but one of the finalists, Daisy Kent, on the show opened up about her cochlear implant experience. It was so moving, and I ended up stalking her socials and found it inspiring how open she is on there as well. She has posted so many TikToks, specifically in the year 2023, describing how she dealt with her hearing loss, her experience getting a cochlear implant, and how it has changed her life. She also shares how it wasn't an easy transition. It took time for her to adjust to hearing and the new challenges that followed, like learning to interpret sounds she had never heard before. What I found inspiring is how she uses her platform to raise awareness about hearing loss and break the stigma associated with it. She doesn't just focus on the positives, but also talks candidly about the struggles and frustrations, making her story real and relatable. Also, she is very open about how the implant works, not just for those thinking of getting one, but so others can be educated. She posted a TikTok April 19th, 2023, captioned Magnetic Strength, and the comments are filled with people thanking her and asking her questions, which she openly answered. With so much negativity in the world today, it makes me happy to see that there are people who support and care for one another. Watching her story unfold, I think, makes people realize the importance of advocacy and the strength that comes from sharing personal experiences.
I recently read a devastating story reported in 2020 by Kieran Levitt in the Toronto Star about the effects of not sharing your personal experiences about being deaf. This story is both heart-wrenching and eye-opening. It's about a man named Chris Kanopik who tragically lost his wife, Laureen Baskerville, to suicide during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. Chris and Laureen were married for 26 years and shared a beautiful life together, raising 2 sons and 2 daughters. They were both deaf, and Chris describes Laureen as his best friend. But as the pandemic hit, so did the isolation. Critical support services like counseling and group therapy were cut off or severely disrupted, and Laureen struggled without the in-person support she desperately needed. In June of 2020, Laureen took her own life. The devastating loss left Chris grappling with guilt and heartache, wondering if things would have been different if the world hadn't shut down. He talks about the challenges the deaf community faces, often feeling like second-class citizens, especially when access to essential services are limited. The moral of this story is clear. Everyone deserves to feel seen, heard, and supported, no matter their abilities or circumstances.
Thank you for sharing that story, Tatum. While that is heartbreaking to hear, I think it is important that we share so many different stories and experiences from the deaf community. Like I said before, there is strength that comes from sharing personal experiences, as we saw through Daisy and Chris.
I'd like to leave you with a hopeful example of the deaf community's power and resilience. In a 2024 article by Lizzie Heyman, she highlighted how, in 2022, the California School for the Deaf in Riverside made history as the first all-deaf football team to win the state championship. This achievement went beyond overall athletic skill, but it was built on foundation of shared communication, with players using football-specific sign language developed over hours of practice. The fact that it was an all-deaf football team makes this especially a significant win, demonstrating the impact of accessible communication in educational setting. The team's success shows how strong communication can bridge gaps, empower individuals, and build confidence even in challenging situations. As their coach said, "We are not just like everyone else, we are better," reminding us that with the right support and tools, any communication can overcome barriers and achieve greatness.
Here on the Silent Voices Heard Stories, we strive to bring real, raw, and insightful conversation about deaf experiences, education, mental health, and the new technology helping those with hearing disabilities. We hope you enjoyed talking and hanging out with us today. This conversation was eye-opening, and I personally learned so much, and I hope everyone listening did too.
Yes, Gabriella, I agree. I learned so much and had a great time getting to chat. Everyone have a great rest of your week, and we will see you next time.
And as always, Silent Voices are heard stories.